Hello and welcome to Paranormal Nation Radio. Not so normal. How's Denise and Ron doing this evening?
Blazing in the rain.
Hey, Nigel.
Hey, Nigel.
Been raining pretty good.
Get a lot of rain, huh?
Finally.
Yep, we need it. We were watching the grass turn green.
Oh. Yeah.
So guess what Ron may have to do for Christmas Eve?
He may have to mow.
It ain't going to be her, so.
I don't mow.
Right. Yeah,
but
you guys
doesn't
been
weed.
pretty dry
I know
down
what
there.
a mower feels like.
And he doesn't weed the flower bed, so it all works out.
Hey, that works out great.
Yeah, it rained so hard it knocked the leaves off my croton plants.
Oh. Well, I was outside for doing a couple things and walked out the back door and looked up and went, uh-oh, white stuff falling down.
Uh-oh. Today?
Yeah, we're supposed to get maybe a light dusting tonight. But there in the middle of the day, I was like, oh, no. So, yeah.
Well, we needed the
stuff.
rain. So
yeah, I know you guys miss all that white stuff. So one of these days, when it snows real good, I'll have to package some up and send it to you.
You know
That's
what?
Okay.
You know what? we really enjoy the snow. We love watching it on TV.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
Like 73 and rainy.
Yeah. The temperature went up overnight.
It goes up when it rains.
It was 68 when we went to bed, and it was 71 when we woke up.
Oh, my Lord.
And the humidity was 97%.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not much different than it was growing up.
We was in the mid-30s today, so, it is what it is when you live in the middle of the country in Missouri, so,
Like
But anyway, you've got us a great guest tonight.
I hope so. He better be great. I build him that way.
Yeah.
Waiting for the check in the mail.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, tonight our guest is Big Jim Jones. We had him on in the past, probably back in the COVID days. And we're going to talk to him some about my hometown, about Baltimore, and some of the stuff that's going on up in that area. So it'll be good to hear, first off, a familiar accent, familiar words coming out of somebody's mouth. So that'll be nice. And it'll be fun to talk to him about some of the places that a lot of us don't get to go to anymore,
Right.
So, but I'd like to welcome Big Jim Jones to the show.
Oh, thank for having me on, folks. Appreciate it. And as we say here, it's pronounced. Some people pronounce it Baltimore. Locally, we say, "Hey, we're from Baltimore, hon." So that's how. Or here's a familiar thing that Denise would actually listen to. Going down the ocean, hon. Going down the ocean. That's. Yep. We don't pronounce our consonants too often, so.
Used to hearing people saying Baltimore. My grandmother would leave out some of the letters, but she was from Virginia, but she had been in Maryland the bulk of her life. So I just got used to it. And, we got this lady that's on the Fox Weather. And I kept telling Ron, I go, she's got to be from Baltimore. And he goes, how do you know? And I said, she keeps saying words that are very, very familiar.
and very much. I mean,
yep, she's from Baltimore, but it growing up there was a great experience back in the day. We had so much, and I know everybody's going to say this about wherever they lived. There was so much color and so many things to do. And we were all dumb. We had zero clue about the crime.
That's the truth. Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, I was even born during the riots. My dad was driving us through, down by Harbor Place and all that before Harbor Place existed, and there were riots going on. And so we had, we witnessed it, but we didn't think anything about it because that really, there were so many different parts of Baltimore that you couldn't count, you know, this one part as being the worst place. You know, Essex was different than Dundalk.
Hello, Tom.
So,
Susan and Mike.
And but you and I had very similar experiences at the USS Constellation, and right around, not too far away from the same time, you know, that we had those
at the it was back in 74 when I was there. When that incident happened, I was actually featured on the Holzer Files Phantom crew. So going a little bit about that, I mean that was the first time I actually been below the gun deck, was when I was interviewed by Dave Schrader, and to go down there and not see everything as it was back then, because back then they were trying to keep her from sinking. I mean, she was literally breaking in half. And when I was 10 years old, I went to Catonsville Elementary School. Went down with combined classes of the other grade classes there, and we went down. And if you remember, Port Welcome used to be down at Inner Harbor. Used to take you out on a cruise. We go down by Sevenpointe, where Bethlehem had a steel mill and had the shipyards and things like that. They would show you Baltimore industry. And back then, of course, what Denise was saying, I remember back in '68 when they had the riot down there, and actually saw parts of Baltimore burning from my front porch. Because where I live, I can actually see Camden Yards with the lights on. We're on what's called the Ridgeway in Catonsville. It's the highest point in southwest Baltimore County. And so to go on board there, we went through and saw, you know, the docent took us to these different places on board the ship. And so to see it from that time when I was interviewed by Dave Schrader, they had already gutted out because they'd done a lot of major work on it. Edward Plank, who owns Under Armour, he has several casks on board of it's rye whiskey that they're aging just to on board the Constellation to raise funds for the Constellation restoration.
Yeah.
So it was there, and just to see that. But things happened, which we'll get into later on. But it was pretty. It was kind of I was I was back, like I was 10 years old again when I went on board, and it's it was a nerve-wracking experience that morning. I was the last one to be interviewed on that. So
I know that I had an experience below decks, and it was in 1975.
Mm-hmm.
So I was probably in 5th grade at the time, and we did the same boat tour, but I lived at one point in Dundalk, so I knew where Bethlehem Steel was.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's where I field trained,
and that was around the time starting to lay people off from Bethlehem Steel.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they were the largest employer in town, but I would love to get into Bethlehem Steel buildings now.
Well,
you know, the ones that are closed down.
Well, unfortunately, in the line of work that I do, we had to do we had to go in there and actually do an inventory for the bankers. Sevastopol bought they bought Bethlehem Steel out in the steel mill down there. They've actually went down there and everything's been torn down. Unfortunately, all the mill, the whole coal roll mill and everything else has been demolished. It's called Trade Point Atlantic, and there's also a big Amazon distribution center that's down there. So
I'm shocked as shit.
it is, but the fortunate fact of the matter, the one part that's still down there is there was a small cemetery that was there. So at least that wasn't, they're preserving that for what it is. But as we know, with developers and things like that, they just pave over all of that. So I've seen it way too many often. You know, way often.
Right.
Well, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, these connections it's probably my phone way it is. You know.
So I'm going to ask you a question about the rebuilding of the Key Bridge. How's that going?
Right now, they're still doing debris clearing. They have to demolish the rest of the structure. They are talking about going a bit higher with the new span. They're not going to do the type of truss building that they had with the original, which they did back in the 70s when they were building that. I just crossed that like about 2 hours before the collapse. I was working, in my job. Got done with a protective order and went across there. Got home, and all of a sudden I got a phone call from a friend of mine in Colorado. Hey, are you okay? Like, yeah, I'm okay. Did you hear that the Key Bridge collapsed? That I turned on Newsmax, and all of a sudden they showed what happened, and I'm like, and all of a sudden I have my suspicions, but I can tell you this: that there was a lot of they hurried up with the investigation quite quickly, and I have my own theories about that, but yeah, it's a shame. I mean, they're doing it's the two tunnels is taking up a lot of the the harbor tunnel, and also the Fort McHenry tunnel is taking up a lot of the overflow in that, but the Beltway is even worse, and right now with the newer construction.
Like I told him,
I think it was on purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you turn on the spotlight in the front. Where was the tugs? The tugs was supposed to guide them out of the port. They do it with every ship. Yeah. And why was it that light came on, went off, came back, and you see where they just directed that? Come on now. I mean, I'm going to go on record. I think it was deliberate. I think it was
a Chinese ship.
Yes,
it was owned by a Chinese company.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was on purpose, and they knew they could do it with that administration.
Mm-hmm.
And get away with it, and they should be paying for it.
Absolutely. I mean,
so many people are losing their jobs because they can't even get to work.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
It's got to be a mess.
Oh, I mean, before they built the bridge, I remember it taking from Essex to Glen Burnie. It would take during the week probably an hour and a half to get there. That bridge took off half an hour.
It did.
Or
if
more.
If you didn't drive through the city or the tunnels, that was the only way that you got across. It was going to be if you really had to gun it down there, it was across that bridge. That cut off a lot of time out of that travel.
Like I said, I told him, I said, I remember watching them build that from, the apartments that we lived at, where we could see Sparrows Point. You could see that. I had people send me pictures from, their houses where they could see it from their upstairs windows and stuff. And it was very sad. I was here on a call and Ron goes, look at this, the bridge is gone. And it was really just.
Yeah. And I didn't say it accidentally hit. I said that ship hit that bridge on purpose.
It was intentional.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. First when I saw it, I said he nailed it.
Because that is probably one of the second busiest traffic areas, because you can't take a gas tanker through the tunnels. So now they have to go around the Beltway. Well, that cripples a lot of the short time that would be for a lot of these transports. I mean, the transportation companies, the small businesses that actually, it's bad enough that COVID knocked them down, but all of a sudden you have this happen. I mean, come on now.
And the port
it crippled everything, and just not Baltimore. It crippled the country.
Sure did.
It shut down the ports.
Yeah.
And
accidents need to start happening over in China now. Just saying. We're gonna. If that was a soft war. Hopefully the big war doesn't break out. I'm just praying that we don't have any wars going on. After what I've been hearing on the news with Syria and everything else like that, that's a whole nother bailiwick right there. We go into it for hours, but
Oh yeah.
You've seen these huge drones up in New Jersey they're showing, right? What do you think? What's your theory on that?
There's quite a number of them. I mean, there's been
law enforcement has technology. Right now, they're testing everything. From what I can tell you, well, as far as I can tell you, what they're doing, they're going to something big's going to go down. We haven't been told that, but if they have technology out there, I mean, they have some at the size of like a Yugo, might as well say, that they go out there and they monitor crowds. There's any kind of riot control, things of that nature, because they kind of like learned after what happened in 2020 during the so-called summer of love and things like that.
Yeah.
They're going to be. This is the modern police state. Unfortunately, they have some that is just so that they have drones that are even as small that you can fit inside your shirt pocket. Things of that nature. I mean, it's scary. I mean, this is how far technology has gone. And being in law enforcement for going on 29 years, I never imagined this would. This is something out of like the Terminator, if you want to look at it that way. How far that went out there. It's not science fiction anymore. It's the real deal.
Yeah, as long as we don't get like the Running Man, I'll be good.
Somebody
Right.
But it is the same.
No, I saw the videos of these things are all over New Jersey, and I said somebody's going to shoot one down just out of curiosity to find out, whose it is or what they're doing.
Well,
yeah,
that's like what happened here back in 2015. I kept seeing these large, look like they used to have these blimps they used during World War II to try to, they were using for watching for submarines and things of that nature. Well, these are called aerostats. So if you ever remember that debacle that happened here, and one of them actually got cut loose and floated into Pennsylvania and was down up there. Up at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds, they had two what they call aerostats, unmanned blimps, and they were monitoring everybody's phone calls, everything else. They were actually collecting data. So that's a whole nother story right there. So I'll leave it at that. But you can check that out online too.
I just wonder how many things we didn't know about that was going on at Aberdeen Proving Grounds for all those years. A friend of mine, or ours, wrote a book about the Aberdeen Wild Man. Something, a creature that he saw out by the Gunpowder River walking through the woods in February at night. And he said it jumped straight up in the air about 12 feet to a tree branch. And he was just taking a shortcut through the woods to get back to his home or get to the bar or whatever it was he was doing at the time. But I wonder if that was an experiment that escaped.
Well, you got the up there. I mean, there's also the Edgewood Arsenal, which is part of that as well. My patrol area is Middle River, Essex, Benji's Chase. If you're familiar with Ebenezer Road going all the way back to the Gunpowder.
Oh, right, yeah. I lived in Hawthorne.
Well, that's my patrol area. Yeah. Hey, Garrett's Beck's is still there, and I still do my shopping there once in a while.
Oh, well, my mom used to work at Gershbeck's Donuts. That was right there. But yeah, I lived back in the government subsidized housing on Kingsway Road.
Yeah, West Kingsway back. You know who? Well, there's a retired. I'll put it to you this way: a retired park ranger from Gettysburg actually lives down there.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So he's been very well known in the paranormal and that. So yeah, he lives down there. So I don't.
You'll have to tell me his name when we get done here.
Okay.
So,
yeah. But
yeah.
down there you have just beyond the fences down there at the end of Ebenezer. The government has buried phosgene, lewisite, chlorine gases still in the containers, and they have monitors down there at the end because there's the end of the Gunpowder Park that's part of it down there. They have the archery range, and just beyond that is part of the Edgewood Arsenal right along the river. And so down in that area, it's one of the creepy areas of the county anyway. And it was right up there where I had the mist that took place up there off of Barrowman's at there off of Ellender. that come around to Laurel Park up in that area. That was where what happened with me, and that took place, back in the day. So it was bad enough. I mean, there's so many sightings of different things up there. Of course, if you're familiar with the Denali Heights Phantom, what you described is almost like what the Denali Heights Phantom was back in the 40s.
Okay. Well, only thing I knew for sure, was first off, it takes up so much space, and that there's places where by boat you can only get to parts of that by boat, but you can't get there by boat because it's off limits.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did know is that after World War I and World War II, that they brought back many of the experiments that they found in other countries and brought them back to Aberdeen, Area 51, Wright-Patterson, all these places. And God only knows what experiments they actually brought back, because nobody knows. The people who know for sure, they kind of just leak out a piece of information here or there. And most of those people are dead now. So all I know is that there was always strange happenings, as you say, down by Ebenezer Road. I mean, we had all this. I mean, they put all the haunted houses down that way, the pay for ones, but all the weird stuff happened when you went that direction. Sure
did. Well, that was all Patapsco Indian territory years ago that merged in with the Cherokee. They were Susquehannocks. It was all through that area. I mean, there's been spiritual. They found Indian burial mounds down through there. You don't hear about it in the news, but if you go into the Baltimore County Historical Society, they do have the maps of all the areas where the mounds are, and some of them are off the beaten path. Some of them you can actually go to in the gunpowder watershed, along the big gunpowder. There are a few that's up there, but I mean, they've seen different things. There was one called it was Ghost Hill, which bordered Harford County, of the young kid that was actually was murdered actually up there and buried on the site. They see that it's more of a residual what they were talking about before. The different other things that's been going on. They've been hearing what sounds like lions and tigers that they've had there after World War II. They can't explain what happened up there. There was a biological lab which they had demolished up there up in Aberdeen, right off of Route 40, behind the old Beta shoe factory. It was a brownfield, and the military went in there and actually did the cleanup and demolition of that before they started having a business park up there along that and trying to revitalize that area up there along Route 40.
Yeah, Route 40 always felt trashy. I mean, I'm just saying. I remember going to the flea market there on Pulaski on 40.
Mm-hmm. That's before you go to Joppatown.
Yeah, I remember going there, and somebody brought up in Kansas City. They brought up Wild Woodies. You guys know about Wild Woodies. That's what this place looked like. It was questionable at best, and the people that worked there or that sold stuff there, you didn't know if they were on the up and up or if they had stolen everything that they had.
It's still there. Oh my God, yes, it's still there.
Oh my. And I heard that shut down Benji's, the drive-in.
The drive-in actually, there was a new owner came in. They actually had that reopen. They actually have it open for the Christmas season to go there, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's before you go up the Carolina Road off of Eastern, and it's probably dates back into the early 40s when they opened that up, and that's one of the last ones just over on my side of town, where it was called the Evanston Drive-In and Westview Cinemas. That's where they filmed Tin Men. If you ever seen a movie with Richard Dreyfuss back in the mid 80s,
that's a good movie.
Yeah, they filmed all that, and so the sorry, somebody's trying to call me. Not important. So over there, when they came out from the lounge scene, and you see the drive-in movie playing in the background, that was the Edmondson. Well, that's now Home Depot, and Staples took over the other part up top. But we used to spend a lot of time over there going in. You pull her up against the fence, you could watch a movie for free, or we'd sneak in and bring our own food from one of the sub shops in the area. Bring her beer in there. We kick back, relax. That was the 70s and the 80s. And where the flea markets we used to have over there on the weekends. You don't see that in America anymore. But there's a few of them around that they preserved. So thank God for Benji. He's still around. Still has the marquee out front on Eastern Avenue, and it's cool to see it. I mean, it really is. One of these times, I'm going to get back over there and actually take time off of work and go over and actually watch a movie there. And it's been a few years for that to happen.
I actually had a paranormal experience there back in.
At the drive-in?
Yeah, there was. I saw a Native American running through the parking lot. And this was back in 77.
Driving a lot, but
I didn't go very much.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was 12. Of course, I saw the movie, but I saw this Native American run through there, and of course, I'm there with all my girlfriends and stuff. You just can't say anything. But of course, Rich. I also went to the Ritchie Drive-In. I know that one doesn't exist from what I understand.
No.
Well,
that's a Lowe's home improvement center now. Believe it or not. Oh yeah. Then you had the North Point Drive-In, which was down North Point Road in Battle Grove, and they were using that as a for flea markets, and that they demolished that probably I guess about 15 or so years ago. And that's now a rural farm and a Wawa right next door to one another, plus a new activity center down there for Baltimore County. But they found artifacts there from the war we controlled.
Oh, I bet. I wouldn't be surprised. We found out that we're getting a Wawa here where we live. We live in the Panhandle of Florida, and we're getting one right down the street. He goes, "What is a Wawa?" I said,
"No." I said, "We're getting a what?"
and I
never heard of it.
So the closest one to me when I was growing up was the one between Stemmers
what is a Wawa?
And Kenwood.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been in there. I've never been in a Wawa.
Mm-hmm.
So
like an adult store.
Wawa. Sounds like the bad sound effect for a cartoon.
Yeah,
Wawa. Yeah.
But yeah, and I told him, I said, I only went to Royal Farm stores. I'd never been in one. So it'll be a new experience that I get to have, a Baltimore experience in Florida.
But they won't have the Royal Farms chicken though.
No, they won't have that. But I never had that though. It was always candy, and I mean, when I left, I was 18, but the first time I left, I was 15. So I'm not going to remember hot food from there.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can remember is seeing the hot dogs spinning on there and never having one. Probably because they had hair on them.
The same one for weeks.
At 7-Eleven.
They still park.
They're probably still there.
Probably still from the 70s.
Yeah.
But another place that I had paranormal experience was down back River Neck Road.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Going back towards the docks back there, so many people got killed on that road when it was a 2-lane and twisty turny and all the bars. I told him stories.
Yeah, that probably do it.
I told him stories about having the turkey shoots. We would have, at this one bar, they would have turkey shoots every Sunday. Well, one Easter, they had an Easter egg hunt in the same place that they do the turkey shoot. So they had to, the kids went out and got the eggs, and one egg was missed, and some kid ran out there to get the egg just as they were trying to start the turkey shoot. Thank God people were paying attention.
Right.
That could have turned out really bad.
Oh, especially, I mean, back when you talk about Back River Neck Road, you go further down to Stansbury Manor, right there by Rocky Point Golf Course.
Mhm.
That's all part of my area. Everything south of Pulaski is all mine, from the city line to Hartford County line. And so that area down there, I mean, that the lady in white's been seen down there at Stansbury Manor. There's been of course, you had small skirmishes that actually happened there during the War of 1812. They've seen soldiers come up up through that area, as well as over there at Battle Grove Road, over on the Dundalk side. Down there, if you're familiar with the IKEA monument, which is a small white monument along the stream down there on Old Battle Grove Road, and right off of North Point. That's where the Battle of North Point. That was where General Robert Ross was killed by two young men from the Maryland militia. Well, actually, those two men that was in the Maryland militia were actually their name was Daniel Wells and Henry McComas. They were two Baltimore County deputy sheriffs, and they killed Robert Ross, who burned Washington down. Was on his way to Baltimore to have tea and crumpets in Baltimore, and then burn it and work his way towards Philadelphia. And but then the defense, which gave them to do the defenses down there in Baltimore at Patterson Park, and that's what happened there. And he was riding on his steed, was warned not to ride on his white horse in the full regalia that he had, and he was shot in the back by these two deputy sheriffs, and then in turn, they got killed, and they're buried down there by East Monument, and it's down by Old Town Mall, right there at Gay and East Monument. That's where they were moved to years ago. But that's actually on the Baltimore County Sheriff's patch. Is the only one dedicated to a militia.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Actually, I'll send you the information later on after we get off. I can send you a link to it.
I mean, you're telling me a lot of stuff about things that, like I said, I left the first time when I was 15, came back, left when I was 18, really haven't been back. So only thing I can tell you is that, things that I actually knew about the area. But, when I talk about home, and Ron will tell you this, I either say that I was from Essex or I talk about my grandmother's house in Towson. That's where I consider to be home when I was growing up anyway. But, there's so many things there that I wish I could experience now as an adult that I experienced back then. Like driving down Back River Neck Road, like, checking out these places that I went as a kid, knowing that, there's other people now that have had paranormal experiences there. Because back in the day, I had no clue that other people were seeing these things, but
nobody was talking about it.
Nobody was talking about it. But
that's true.
But I've told people this, they go, where's your bucket list location that you want to investigate? And I said, where my father was murdered.
And where would that be?
On Harriet Avenue. My dad was killed in a row home by his own father.
Wow.
Over by Camp Meade. Well, it was Meade Manufacturing then, but now it's Camp Meade. But yeah, they're
still there.
The houses?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I found them.
Really?
I found the houses on Google Earth. And you can see them there. I mean, the school that I went to is still there and all that. But that's where I would like to investigate. But you don't walk up to somebody's house in a question. You don't question somebody in a house and say, "Hey, have you had paranormal experiences here? Do you see some white guy walking through your house with, blood running down his back?" You don't do that because it was a questionable neighborhood then,
right?
But but my grandfather, I don't think he owned the house. I think he was a renter. So, and I don't know how much of the information is available in the newspaper, in the Baltimore Sun. So that talks about what happened, when my grandfather was arrested and all this other stuff. I don't know how much of it is available out there. I just know what I know, but that's my bucket list place.
There's also a freedom of information request you could do with the police department, local police department down there. If Anne Arundel County police were involved in the investigation, you can do a FOIA request. And if you have a date, time, whatever there is. Also, I would check with to see if they have in the Baltimore Sun. I would find out through their, they have any of their archives, or would go back that far and actually be able to, but of course it might cost you $2.
I know my mom cut it out of the newspaper, but we don't have it. But like I said, we've had his obituary and stuff, but the story, my mom, like I said, my mom cut it out of the paper and she put it in a lockbox, and nobody knows. Well, everything got burned up in a fire, so we lost it all. So there's that. And, I know enough, but I mean, I was 10, 1975, a lot of information is not what they have is what they have. What I know is what I know, it's just different, but I will have to check that out. And I just know it was in Baltimore City. It wasn't too far from, what was that road?
Not a clue. For
some reason, I've drawn a blank on the road, but there used to be a Geno's on it, not too far from there. But back then there were Geno's they were all over the place. So that doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get contacted to be on the Holzer Files?
It was actually through Brad Kling, believe it or not, good buddy of mine, with Every Paranormal. Matter of fact, I'm actually wearing her shirt. He contacted me and wanted to know if I knew anything about, if I did an investigation down there at the Constellation, and or if I had any experiences on board. And I said, let me tell you this. I typed that everything from point A when I got on board the ship until when we got off and go on the port welcome. And so he said to the producers, and I didn't know Dave Schrader was involved with it, because I've known Dave through when we did a lot of the paranormal conferences together. And so I didn't know the story was about me. I had no idea. They just told me to show up down there. This is actually the week of Memorial Day week in 2019 when it was filmed. And but that's when it was just through that, and they just used the story about it. And I was very blessed to have been a part of it. I can tell you that right there, what Shane experienced and what Dave experienced down there, that was, and of course with Cindy Kaza, everything went with all that. What they experienced, that ship has some issues. That's not the original sloop, though. The original Constellation was basically blown to bits during the Revolutionary War. So it's actually not the oldest, as we were told when we were children, that was the oldest, ship in the U.S. Navy. It's only bits and pieces of it. So the original ship is actually on board this one, which was built in 1854. But I digress on that. But
facts are facts,
mm-hmm.
and legend is legend, and that's all good. So I did not know until recently that you can spend the night on the USS Constellation.
Mm-hmm. You can do that also, and the Torsk.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep.
I remember when it seemed like they had just gotten it there in the harbor, but I remember going by that thing and going, boy, that's scary. I mean, I was probably 8 years old, seeing this submarine that looks like a shark.
Oh yeah, when you went down Pratt Street, heading over the east side, and you look over and you see that that teeth grinning at you. It was kind of foreboding. And then, of course, down behind the power plant, you had the Coast Guard cutter Tawny that was a survivor of Pearl Harbor, and still is the sole remaining warship afloat from the attack on Pearl Harbor. That has that. I have been on board and actually done an investigation on the Tawny, and I have accounts from guys who I work with who retired from Baltimore State Police who work with me in my agency. He told me about when we had the blizzard back in '83. That was the Orioles year, that kind of a thing like that. But they were on board. The museum allowed the police to go in there and actually camp out for during all that. So one of the guys got up there and got in one of the bunks. They hooked the heaters up and everything else for him. They heard footsteps running through the machine area. They heard what sounded like that there was somebody trying to start the engines up, which the engines haven't run in years. They've actually smelled pipe smoke on board. They've also heard voices in other parts of the sub. Now there was nobody outside. Now you could hear from inside people talking on the outside and that, but when you have a full blizzard in the middle of it, and there's only 3 of you on board the sub, and you're camped out. And there's nobody running around, and there's nobody on boats because down there at that time it was like if you were seen out on the streets after curfew, you're going to get locked up. And that was the way it was back then. And they had all these different experiences. One guy got so freaked out. He said he was actually felt like somebody grabbed him by his feet, was trying to drag him off the bunk like it was like a hot what they call a hot mat or a hot mattress. Because basically it was like you slept for a couple hours, you got out, and somebody else jumped in the hot bunk.
Yeah.
And like with him, somebody was trying to pull his feet out. He thought it was these other guys when they're a couple of rows back. And it's like he started freaking out. I can't stay out there and do this. He decided he was a volunteer to stay outside and kind of like watch over the area down there because you had a lot of business at Harbor Place and around by the World Trade Center and such. But that's what happened. I mean, this place is active like there's no tomorrow. Baltimore is actually a paranormal Disneyland. Baltimore County is the same way. There's places here that people go pay with, like I just saw the demolition of Bobby Mackey's. But they said they started doing that today. I've never been there.
We've been there.
And I said I would like to go up there and play a couple songs on my cigar box guitar before anything happened at that place. But one of these days I'll eventually get to go down there. But you have places locally.
It was very dangerous place to go. I mean, it was falling down when we went, and that was 9 years ago, and it was falling down then. It was
it's close, real close to the river, a lot closer than you would think.
It's rickety.
I mean, when you see where it's built, you go, why would they build something this close to that river?
And that close to the road and a
it's got
junk
a flood
plant. Yeah, it's got a flood. You got big trucks driving by, shaking the damn building all the time.
Oh yeah,
it was. I don't know. It's one of the few places that we went that my mom went.
It was a good location.
It was. We did have
really active,
but you're telling us so many things about that area, and I have to say, I know that when it snows in Kansas, okay, I remember it snowing in Maryland, but I remember how quiet it is.
Oh yeah,
nobody's out driving around and all that other stuff. It had to be so. What you guys were hearing and stuff had to be so loud because it was so quiet out.
When you had no winds, you had that straight, heavy snowfall. And even in Baltimore City at that time, you talk about eerie quiet. That's what it would be. You didn't even hear a lot of the car horns and everything else going on.
Right.
Now there's another place which is close to me. Where I live in Texas. We have a ghost town of Ilchester, which used to be a mill town. Some of the buildings are still there. That's active as all get go. Of course, you've probably heard of Hell House over in Ellicott City. That was used to be a Catholic convent that was over there. It burned down in '84. Spring Grove State Hospital, the second oldest continuously operating psychiatric hospital in the United States. That's where both my parents worked. And I've spent many times been in tunnels. Actually, if you watch Route 66, a bridge over 5 days, in front of this one building, it's called the Foster Waite. That was actually where Silence of the Lambs was actually filmed there, but it's not in the closing credits because they were worried about break-ins. So actually the group of nurses walking up there, one of them is my mother. She got a free lunch that day and got a picture taken with Martin Milner and George Maharis. So it's cool, but it's haunted as all get-go. And I work with a gentleman who actually, come to find out, is a distant cousin of mine. His grandmother was buried down there, and the state of Maryland had fought him tooth and nail, saying she wasn't buried there. We were able, to 55 years to the day she died, put a new headstone on her grave, one of the few marked graves at Spring Grove State Hospital. And my mother was actually one of her caregivers and didn't even realize it was her cousin.
Oh, wow.
Oh my!
Which is sad. But it was a beautiful, beautiful thing that happened. And we have that place. I could tell you all the things, experiences down there. I've actually done some investigations there. One, I'll tell you real quick EVP story. There was a lady who was a war bride. Came back. She actually was over in Dresden, Germany. Married a GI. Came back to the States. She actually started having forms of dementia. She was in what they call the geriatric wing at Bland Bryant Building. My mother worked there. My mother actually cared for her. And so whenever they had the fireworks at Catesville High School, which is right across Valley Road, the fireworks would go off. They would have to sedate her because she thought that the British were bombing. Mm-hmm. So we got there one night, and there was a gentleman who worked as part of the state down there. It turned into an office building after all down there. And we were doing EVPs in the stairwell right above where she was. And I went out there and I said, "Guten Tag, Herr Frau." And faint, and this is, you can hear it by ear. And I was actually listening to this with my recorder with my headphones on. "Guten Tag." She responded back. That poor lady is still there. That's for whatever reason. That's kind of a heartbreaker, and seeing many of these patients there who went through torture like no tomorrow, and so, different places around here that you can go into, and even the small towns, what people don't realize, you don't have to go that far. Like, people go to Gettysburg. Okay, for instance, I've been there numerous times, and you probably had too, and probably back in the day when you were here in Baltimore.
Yep.
I'm less than an hour away. People don't realize that you can walk down those streets. The whole town was the battlefield. You walk down the back streets and you can do EVPs. You can do investigations on your own up there, freelance it, and it's not going to cost you anything. You don't have to go on these ghost tours and things like that. I mean, there's things you can do, and you will get responses if you do your research. You know what the lingo was back then. You can interact. And things happen up there like no tomorrow. And I got so many stories about Gettysburg I can tell you about. It would take another hour to go through it.
Well, we got some people that are planning on going to Gettysburg next year, so for their first time. So it'll probably be worth it for them to hear some of them. We went back in 2017. We went and we stayed at the little, what was that called now?
I don't know.
We stayed at this little hotel across the street from the Budget Host Inn, right across the street from the cemetery. And I did my show from the hotel room, and our guest was there. She came to see us at the hotel, and her name is Kat Gash. She lives down in Frederick. And so she came up there to see us. And
very familiar with her. Yes, we did some stuff together. Yes.
Yeah.
So
you probably know her.
Yeah, we're pretty good friends. And she's sitting there, and at the end of the show, she goes, "This guy won't quit touching me." And Ron's across the room, sitting on the bed, and at the time my show was not video, so it was all nobody
Audio.
could see.
Right.
Yep.
The audio.
Nobody could see what we were doing. So, and Kat goes, "Who is this guy?" I said, he's a soldier from over there. I said, he keeps coming in our room. And so we were having experiences just in our, randomly in our hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
So, but still my favorite part was still going to Friendly's to get ice cream. So.
Stein, we're out of them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That was my first job, was scooping ice cream for Friendly's out on Ritchie Highway in Glen Burnie.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone.
Yes, some of them are still around like that down there along Ritchie Highway. I mean, the mall's gone. But other than that, it still has its problems like it was, a few years back. So it's you're not missing really that much other than some of the redevelopment they're trying to do down there. But
that's what I've heard.
Triangle. On the Glenbury Triangle, is it active? Absolutely. Been to Wishing Rock down there at the far end of it. Oh yeah, been down there. Had some experiences about that too.
So if I was to come back to Baltimore, where would be the two places I need to check out now?
Well, if as far as what the Constellation is concerned, I mean, if you want to try to do something like that on there, I would recommend if you're going to do that, try contact through the Baltimore Maritime Museum. I don't know if Pat Keeley is still a part of it or not. Contact him. You can do an investigation overnight. If you're to do that, I would take and do it long after like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning to go on board there. If you can do that, because the less traffic you have going through that time through the town, the better off you're going to get with your EVPs or some of your other photo work and such. You can investigate, in which Kat was part of it. You can investigate the Burnside Bridge in Antietam. You can actually get with the Park Service up there, arrange with them. They'll have a guard, or actually one of the park rangers will be there, and you can have it like from midnight till about 4 a.m. And there is plenty of activity there. There's different things that's happened there, so you can actually be part of that. But you have to pay a fee for it. But I mean, you're not going to be disappointed. I can tell you that much. Especially if you do research, do a lot of the history.
I have a second cousin who owns a house on Antietam Battleground. It used to be a house or a school.
Mm-hmm.
So see, I got
up
that
through
one.
there, it's quite a bit.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and there's one which I've done over at Towson University. It's called the Auburn House.
Yeah.
John Zaffis and my team, the Paranormal Research Investigation Society of Maryland. Sorry, got to do a plug on there. And then also Pasadena Paranormal actually worked with us. We investigated for 24 hours, and there was a lot of different things that happened there. That was the Ridgeleys actually own that property. If you're familiar with the Hampton Mansion, this is the exact duplicate, but on a smaller scale, for one of the daughters. And they've had different things that happen there. And we had a former member that used to work at Towson University, witnessed a lot of things when he did the work over there. And so he gave us the heads up where we had to go look for things of that nature. And we come up with some things. That was back in 2010 when we did that investigation. But the school right now is going through a lot of changes, so they're really not going to be able to allow a lot of people back in there. If I get the information when I can, I'll share it with you, and that way, a lot of people get in there. It would be a good way of raising the money to try to save the location anyway. Like the Hampton Mansion, Fort McHenry, they don't allow paranormal investigations. They kind of shy away from it. Now, if you're going to do one at a fort somewhere, Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia, that's where I would go. Good friend of mine, Greg O'Brien, We'll all be at the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash in July. And so he has a table up there which goes through everything. And he has plenty of ghost stories, which when we did investigations together up there, we actually experienced a couple things, especially a ghost fart.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Broad daylight,
wow.
ghost fart. Yes. We actually had that on audio. So
That's what I claim mine are. Ghost
that's-
farts. I claim all mine are not mine. They're a ghost.
they're not mine. Oh, yeah, because it was like it was right there at the gate that overlooks the Delaware going out towards the outside casemates. And it was the guard shack that was there. These are the guys who were the drunken bums. They were the ones that they loved it was kind of like the old what Hank Williams III always said, he loves to drink, blank, and fight. So I'll leave that four-letter vernacular out of it. But that's basically what they were, and this is exactly what happened. There's so many places. I mean, I could go into a lot of this stuff here that just go there, have fun, but also be respectful. I mean, if you interact with them on their level, you're gonna be good as gold. They'll talk your ear off. They'll do different things. I've seen it happen. I mean, the stuff that I have, I'm very blessed to be able to do a lot of this.
Well, I tell you, I did not know how many people had experiences in the area that I grew up in until about 4 or 5 years ago. There in Essex, Middle River, Hawthorne, and out towards, out past Benji's and all that. I did not know about that until I started seeing Bill Bean and some other people posting stuff about it. And it's like, I grew up there, and I saw, here's the, some of the things I saw, but it's like, it just seems odd now, that people are talking about the place that I called home. It's just very weird. But a few of the places that I didn't see stuff was like, I never saw anything at Stemmer's Run. Never. Now, over at the pony farm, I did, or penny farm, where the chickens, I saw stuff over there all the time, but never anything at the school. I doubt that chicken farm still exists.
Now, Essex Elementary School, they demolished that a few years back. They have a new one, but they kept the facade of the old school right there on Mesa Avenue. And they've actually witnessed that because there's a cornerstone that was put there back in the 1700s that marked the one property that was down there. They've seen shadow figures going up and down the staircase. There's lights on at nighttime. They see it during the day. They've seen it on different occasions. The police station, the old fire station down there, right there on Eastern Avenue, right down below there, has been known to be haunted, which is the Essex Historical Society. I haven't done an investigation in there. That's another avenue when we try to get something going there. But there's numerous places. The old Mace Cemetery, right there by Franklin Square Hospital, Franklin Square Drive. Dr. Mace, which the street's named after down there in Essex, and his family up there, they do see shadow figures up around that cemetery. So is he ticked off about what the Essex Community College has done to the property? Have they wasted all that? The Martin Farm is all gone. It's been overdeveloped. That there has been at least 2 family cemeteries back there has been covered over. I mean, how pissed are they going to be? Pardon my French.
Yeah, well, I think they covered those up back in the late 70s.
Especially when they came down for 95 when they were doing the extension down there.
Yeah. My mom graduated from Essex Community College. I remember walking through, people don't realize that way back then, you could let a 6-year-old go walking around and nobody thought anything of it, But at the time, I think I was probably 11 years old with my, younger sisters. We were just walking through the woods while my mom was working on the school paper, because she is part of the journalist club there. And I remember walking through the woods back there, and I came across like 3 headstones, but it was all grown up over and you couldn't read any of them. But my sisters freaked out and said that they had to leave. They thought it, but they were a lot younger than me. And of course I had to take them out, but, you look at this stuff and you go, why did they have to tear this up? Now, now we all look back and go, history is so important. Back then, as we were kids, we probably didn't think about history being important. It was just some other thing we had to memorize.
Right.
Memorize this date or memorize this story because you're going to be tested on it. But I really wish we had all paid attention to the factual history.
That's true. I mean, that's where a lot of your what people don't realize is your information comes from your history. I mean, if you really want to have a successful investigation, you do your homework first and then try to do the interactions. You're not going out there walking into a place like especially down there, is anybody here? Anybody want to talk to me? It's the same. That's the canned diatribe that we've heard on television. You walk in there, can I speak to Mrs. So-and-so? And then go into certain specific details, give it time to respond and see if it comes back on it. A lot of times you're going to get the responses, especially a bus stop that's right down the hill from the cemetery itself. You go down on a quiet night, I can go down there, pull up, and actually start doing interactions with them, like Dr. Mace. Hey, I might have my belly doesn't feel too good, or you say, can you help me out with my stomach issues? Something like that. We you knew he was a medical doctor, knew when he went to. He was one of the doctors that made house calls, things like that. See if that actually works out. See what comes up. That's why we try to tell everybody. It's nothing like don't imitate what you see on television. Go in there with the mindset. Hey, I'm just going to go in and have a friendly visit with these people, and treat them like I'm talking to you right now. We're all sitting around. We're having a good time. That's what you want to do with these folks, but give them enough time to be able to try to get back with you. But these places here, they're places of respect. I hate seeing old houses being torn down, cemeteries being disinterred, and things of that nature. That's the reason why I wear many hats about as far as trying to preserve history as much as I possibly can. My father only had 6th grade education, but he pushed history with me, and through his passion is what got me into doing what I do, and also what I do as a line of work also, because that was another thing that history in of itself had brought me into the law enforcement field too, and so it's something that people have to look at, and if you really want to be successful at it, you have to take that certain type of approach to it.
We have Rex Nielsen's in here. He says he's telling all of us hi, but he says, "Big Jim, fantastic to see you, brother."
Well, good to see him. I hope he's enjoying that guitar. I haven't forgot about the bridge. I got a lot. I have a lot of guitars I got to take and work on. That was one of my experiments that I had done. I actually built Rex actually sent him a guitar that I had built. Keith Age has one of the other ones in that same line. I had debuted him at the Upstate Paranormal Conference down in South Carolina, Upstate Spirit Seekers Conference, and that was put on by Dave and Karen Van Marm, and he got one of my hybrid guitars that I had, and Rex has the other one. So I still have 2 more left, but I mean, they'll be up there. I'll put some pictures up there, and everybody can take a look at that. And if they want to contact me about building one, I can definitely build them one. I'm actually building some out of cookie tins and hard hats and different other things. I mean, it's recycle, reuse, repurpose. That's try to do all of it. If I'm gonna be smoking, I got one right there. As part of the one I spoke earlier. Might as well use the boxes for something. So. You know,
Rex says he loves it. He loves his cigar box guitar.
It's a very unique instrument. I'll put it no two are alike. I can guarantee you that. And so there's gonna be, I'll be putting up on my personal page on Facebook. I'll have up there from our event on Saturday with the cigar box guitar builders, and they get to showcase what different types of music that we play through.
So I have some more questions.
I think we froze up.
Okay,
Yeah.
are you there? Okay, are you there now? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here now. Yeah.
Okay, so in your day job, which I assume is in law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
do you have paranormal experiences during your job?
I've had several. Actually, one of them was actually featured on Paranormal 911. It was several months after I was filmed with the Holzer Files. Then I was contacted by Bill Hartley, who was on with Ghost of Shepherdstown.
Yeah,
who ran Team Herbal. Yep. And so he wanted to know if I had any experiences. I'm like, oh yeah, I have several. So I sent him the one about what happened over there off of Allender Road, Bowerman, and comes back to Laurel Lee Beach. And it was with the mist, it's called. And it was the strangest thing out of that, because usually with the vent pipes from the eastern landfills over there. And make a long story short, this mist comes in. I'm going through. Of course, I had to have 4 windows down because my air conditioner in my car wasn't working. So I was going to go in the shop the next day. I wasn't going to get a pool car because they're filthy to begin with. That's beside the point. But I have a lunchbox, have my ice in there, along with a cold rag always kept with me. And I'm going up for, and basically how it was that they portrayed it in there is about a stolen car. Well, it's actually, I'm checking on an eviction, which we're going to do on that Friday. So I'm checking on the house and going past all the gas relief areas for the landfill. I've seen this. It was this thick mist. So 2 things pop in my mind. And of course it's about 90 degrees out. Is that from the landfill or is that from Edgewood Arsenal? Because you're not that far from it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's chlorine or phosgene or lewisite. And all of a sudden, I heard it was going off that they called the timeout from the dispatcher, and this mist. All of a sudden, all my electronics went down. My cell phone, my walk around radio, everything went out, and the car drifted to the side of the road. This mist came through the car and enveloped me. I mean, it basically was like a static charge kind of a thing. I could see, looked like it was raining inside of my windows, also inside of the car, but it was like fingers, kind of like touching things, like all this. But it moved through the car, and I remember getting this metallic taste in my mouth. So it goes at the other side, and all of a sudden, it went out to this field, and I get a car, look at it, it dissipated, and then everything in the car came back on, including my cell phone, everything started back up again. The last thing I heard was 1830 hours which is 6:30. When the dispatcher first time that they gave when everything came back on was 19:05, which is 7:05 p.m. 35 minutes I can't account for. Didn't go anywhere, but I can't account for it.
Wow.
That was the weirdest thing that ever happened to me right there. And I got marks on my arm, which this camera's not really going to pick it up, but there's other things. There's spots on my arm where I can't my pigmentation right ever since then.
Were you abducted?
So I could send you photos of that later on. But I wasn't. No, I didn't go nowhere. I mean, it just it all happened in like a split second. But I lost 35 minutes. I can't account for.
So what do you think happened?
Well, for one thing, my my butt didn't hurt. As far as that matters. But yeah, I can't account for that 35 there.
Yeah, well, metallic taste in your mouth. That's kind of weird. That
happened on
that's a sign, I think, radiation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Sounds like it'd be more alien than ghost paranormal.
Well, it does kind of sound like the stuff that we're seeing on the Skinwalker Ranch stuff. They had the metallic tape in their mouth, but they don't talk about a mist or anything unless they've seen it in the distance.
Checking for radiation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wonder if you had a little bit of exposure to radiation.
Mm-hmm. So that's good to know, because I can tell you that I've been when I worked the West Side area on patrol, I had to go to the FBI field office all the time before I went back into the Madras. That was where Al Zawahiri with the imam and also 2 9/11 hijackers actually stayed over in Woodlawn. And so there I had to go and get debriefed before I went in there. And I'm just going in there for summons work and then come back out. I had to go back to the field office to get, they run a Geiger counter over top of you, and plus they swab you to see if you come in contact with anything. That's nerve wracking. I'll put it to you that way. And of course, I'm back over in the Essex area now, which I'm trust me, I love it. I mean, I love going over to Martin Airport and checking up on my state police guys and city aviation and that. I'm having a blast with that. But when it comes to something like with this unknown, it's nerve wracking. I can put it that way.
I got in trouble for climbing the fence at Glen El Martin when they were filming Dog Day Afternoon, I think it was. Al Pacino was over there, and I had gone I'd walked from the school from Hawthorne Elementary, jumped over the little creek and went up there, and I got in a lot of trouble. The police called my mom, and she had to come and pick me up. She was not a happy camper, but I got in a lot of trouble for trespassing that day.
Oh, man.
I wonder what they, I know that they build planes there and stuff. And I remember going to the air shows and the boat shows that they would have there. The cigar boats would come through. You could watch them from Glen El Martin back in the day. I wonder what all they built there.
Mm-hmm. Well, all over that area now, they repurposed where they built the B-26 bombers over there at Martin's. The Martin factory itself is being repurposed into they're going to have retail space in there. They're trying to bring in a whole foods over there. Route 43 comes in right by it. The Martin Airport is still active. I mean, the air base is still over there with the National Guard. The A-10 Warthogs, see them every day flying. I mean, it's great when they have the historic air shows, when they bring in a lot of the historic aircraft and all from the commemorative Air Force.
Hear those.
Yeah, they're all over here.
Oh, I love the I love the sound of the A-10s or like with the commemorative aircraft. That when you hear the Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, that right there, I could hear that. I'm not a big fan of Battle of Britain movie, and to hear that, it gives you an adrenaline rush for whatever reason. It does me, being a history buff, but
it scares the hell out of the enemy. They hate that plane. They
Absolutely.
do.
I mean, let me tell you, and they built them up in Hagerstown. Now the pens that they have for the seaplanes from Martin's is still there. That was part of that. There were several small airports around the area, but the sea pens are still there. You go down Strawberry Point, which takes back down behind behind Martin's is and there's some activity down there because there's the Middle River Volunteer Fire Company down there. That place is haunted, and I've been for years trying to get in there because the old captain that was down there, I think he died on shift, and they keep hearing him running back like he was stopped. He got either ticked off with somebody or something was he's a perfectionist. If things weren't done in a certain way, you could hear his footsteps just like running to the place. So, of course, they're very active down there, and trying to get somebody in it. We're trying to do an investigation there. It's like pulling hen's teeth. But I've done it out there in Manchester Volunteer Fire Company. We actually went out there and did one out there several years back, and they actually had a bowling alley. They had 4 lanes downstairs, duck pins and 10 pins. And they restored the lanes there. They used to have a movie theater there and everything else. That place is active. So, plenty of places in Maryland to go check out. Just got to come here, and I could point you where you got to go and take you around a couple of these places.
It's going to be go that way. Go that way.
Right.
So it's just, like I said, it's just amazing to hear about the area that I grew up in from a different standpoint. At the time, nobody cared about all that stuff. So, but I do remember going out to Wilson Point, going to the beach back there and getting pooped on by a seagull. They always say it's lucky, and it's for everybody else, not me. So if you get pooped on by a seagull and somebody tells you it's lucky, it was lucky for them that you got shit on.
You're right.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, I think that beach that we went to was Rocky Point. Back in there.
And you probably been down to Cox's Point when they had the beaches down there, and with all the big logs that they lost many years ago, and there's now reclaiming some of the greatest places to go catch crabs and all. But of course, they're cleaning all that up with all the sludge and everything else that come back from down there at the point where they used to go up there and dump off all the slag and such over the years. But of course, everybody's emptying their toilets down there. But there's plenty of places down along that water's edge which actually worked out.
Well, I guess we lost him for a second now. So,
Yep.
but it's been fun listening to him.
Oh,
He's got all
it's
kinds of
interesting to
stories.
hear all about Baltimore and what you grew
it's
up
not
in
just-
and what has changed and everything.
And the thing is it's not just Baltimore; it's the surrounding area that's amazing to hear about. So
Right.
we were just covering for you. So,
But so Jim, what got you into building your cigar box guitars?
Well, I started out playing a little bit. I always wanted to have my own guitar. Being in Catonsville, Maryland, it's known as Music City, Maryland, because we had Bill's Music House and we had numerous other. We had like 4 or 5 small music shops around.
Any pros?
And so purpose things. So I started to take and go into these areas where, looking for different things. I went there and get guitar strings, and so I went in. My mother drove me up there, and I got my first electric guitar and a fingerhead catalog back in the early '80s. And so she drove me up there, go get strings, and all of a sudden, this is about 1980 when this happened. And so she smokes her Pall Malls. I come out, and she goes, "Take this and throw away from me over in a dumpster." She says, "Just do it." So I go over to open the door, and I go to throw it in there, and I see guitars in there. I see that these were like the Japanese guitars, like Tysko and all of them.
Right.
I saw amps, everything else being thrown away. Well, so what's going to happen with that? So it used to be John Wilson Lumber Yard, and there was a way through the back you could come into through the old sawmill and off a back street. So my father, he waited for nighttime, and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, can you drive me to Meadowbrook?" And he goes, "What?" And I started telling him what it was about, and he goes, "Oh, Jesus Christ, where'd they put all this shit?" Pardon my French. That's the way he said it. And so when I would go up there, and I would get this stuff and climb the dumpster and get all the stuff and start putting it together. Well, when my mom and dad had split up for a while, I was going back and forth to West Virginia, Princeton, West Virginia, matter of fact. And down there, it was going down there, we were doing used to go hunting, and I came across someone who it was parts of a steel guitar or lap guitar that was made out of a part of a white picket fence. I still have it hanging in my workshop. So down there, I saw some old articles in that where people made cigar box guitars. So we had some that my father used to mold either bullets or he made fishing lures. I still got over 2 tons of lead in my basement, animals. So that's what got me started. I mean, I went there, started to build my own, but I used parts from the old guitars that I found in the garbage, and I started piecing together, make my own guitars, and that's how I got started. And then back Shane Spiel had, and he had all the depression areas, and that's what I started seeing with that. And that's how we got to become good friends and all. And that's what we do about once a month on the second Saturday. We have a it's called Sound Searchers meetup group where a lot of guys get together and that, but just to build something out of what people would throw away. You can actually make a guitar out of a 2x4. I mean, I've made them out of construction hard hats, things of that nature. But it's a fun thing to do. It keeps me out of the refrigerator, in other words, because you can see I took some punch. So
yeah, and with 3-string cigar box guitars for a young person starting out, they're easy to play.
Yes, they are. And
I've
the
seen
truth behind that,
I follow a lot of people doing them.
Truth behind that is, if you heard of Bo Diddley, the famous guitar player from the '50s, the rock and roll era. Well, the 1-string guitar is called a diddley bit. That's a station.
Yep.
So it was always with a broom handle, with a cigar box, the baling wire on a broom handle or on a broom would get you either 3 or 4 strings. And that's how it got started.
Mm-hmm.
But I made them up to 5 strings. I'm trying to build a 12 string if I can actually get the support rod right in the neck itself. But yeah, they have a sound all their own. The baritones, which I love, the growly, type of thing. That's what I love about it.
Right. I've seen them.
And there's no rules to it.
Right. There's no rules to it. And you can play it with a slide. The noise that comes out of one is music to your ears.
That's it. It's not going to be a Gibson. Like I tell people, it's not going to be a Gibson or a Fender or even a Paul Reed Smith, which they make here in Maryland. But you can actually take and make something of your own with your own 2 hands. You can do it in a couple hours, and just as long as you're happy making noise, it's joyful noise, what we called it back then. And was very fortunate back in 2019. We had there was 264 of us in York. We set the world record when we played playing simultaneously on cigar box guitar, Bad to the Bone.
Yeah.
So
I remember seeing the video on that.
Yeah.
I mean, Shane does a lot of it. I've watched a lot of his videos. Justin Johnson doing 3-string shovel and everything, making them out of shovels. And I tell you what, it's interesting. Some of the music and songs they can make out of a 3-string guitar.
There's like Samantha Fish, it's another one. Gelia Volt is another one. Dark Style About It. She's from Southern Maryland. She's on the circuit as well, and makes her own music, makes her own guitars and all. There's a guy who I collaborate with quite a bit. His name is Brian Davenport. He's from the Hot Sauce Cigar Box Guitar Kitchen, or if you go on the YouTube, it's under Black Lantern CBG. The guy is an artist when it comes to building guitars, but as far as he's one hell of a musician, and I really give him credit for that. And I actually have a CD player in my Cruiser. I actually play a lot of his CDs, and just listening to that while I'm working, they kind of like kill the time.
Right.
But it's fun to be a part of it. It's a great genre to be in, and so that's one venture that I have that I'm going to step up as when I get ready to retire in about another year and a half or so, that I can go into, and I can actually, you build some of your own two hands. That's your baby. That's getting be proud about it. That's all part of it.
Right. And the nice thing about it, it's not dedicated to one age group. It's from little kids to the oldest people out there, as long as they can move their fingers.
As long as they're happy with it. It's like with me, I use, instead of using, the fret wire these days is costing quite a bit. It's about $30 a pound for fret wire. So you might that 1 pound might make one or two guitars. That's as far as it goes. I cut the cost down. I use repurposed materials like bamboo, which is just as strong, and that's what I use on those guitars at that point. So I can make them fretless. I can make them with frets. I can actually have them where you can have the best of both worlds. It's just which way that somebody would like to be able to play with it,
Right.
And
it's like you said, you repurpose everything. You ought to see the guys who build them out of a pallet. They can build a cigar box out of a pallet.
Oh, absolutely.
On it. I mean, it just doesn't have to be a cigar box. I've seen, the Canjo made out of those Christmas tins that we all used to get with the log nuts and everything in them, and make them. And boy, you talk about a sound. Yeah.
So I have something to say about that. The guy who created the Canjo is at my cousin's house right now practicing with the State Line Band.
Good.
Down there in Bristol. So
nice.
But I didn't know anything about the Canjo until today. Okay, I'm just saying.
You didn't know about a Canjo?
Oh, me? I knew. I actually built a few of them, 2-stringers, what they call chuggers. I've done those. I've taken the old paint cans that they had. You take a little oatmeal. There's these Irish oatmeal cans. I actually have one in the workshop right now, which I've drilled holes for, but I haven't put the neck in yet. But I'll be doing the first 3-string on that and be stringing up and send that out for somebody for Christmas. But it's anything you could take. Coffee cans. I mean, there's Ken Falsgraf. He's with Palmyra Junk Pile Guitars. He was one of my influences as well. G.S. Monroe, who's down Florida, makes beautiful instruments. He's done a lot of cigar box guitars, conversions of violins, broken violins, and mandolins into cigar box guitars, with the 3 and 4 strings. These people are some of my mentors. I network with a lot of good people, but you hear these different versions. I've seen valve covers from a 350 small block Chevy be turned into a guitar. So there's no limits. There's no rules. I mean, I like the bizarre things. I guess I'm more kind of like eclectic kind of a guy. But let your imagination run wild, and that's what I do with one of these.
And you can make them acoustic or you can make them electric. Either one.
That's right. I mean, when you cut down the cost, you get the piezo. You get a 55 millimeter piezo pickup, which is some people make actually have an old Gunther's beer can that I'm turning into a microphone using that same type that I put in the guitars. That goes back somebody who's done it.
That goes way back.
Or Natty Bo, National Bohemian beer cans.
That's not even made anywhere. Made in Texas now.
Natty Bo, Where they make them now, where it's being brewed now, is up in Harrisburg. They moved everything from down at Atlanta's down up there, and they're actually producing that, and they're still selling it as like, oh, Baltimore's brew, but there's a few microbreweries here. But
yeah, they said that it's made by Pabst now, the same people that do Pabst Blue Ribbon. And I did some research and found out that they were making some of it in Texas. I'm like, why? I mean, let's be honest. It doesn't sell outside of that area where it's at. Nobody wants it that bad.
I never heard of it until Joe.
It was like Colt 45 was another brew. It was actually named after one of the old Baltimore Colts. So not going to a big history lesson, those brews. Let me tell you something. I've done my fair share, go through my kidneys. I can find other brews that I would rather do than Eddie Bose and things like that. But you get what you pay for. It's pretty funny how it all turns out, though. But to make the microphones or actually turn them into canjos, it's a piece of playable art way I look at it.
Right.
You can hang up on your wall. If you don't play, or you just pick it up and just go up there and just do simple couple chords and you're good, as long as you're happy with it. So everything from license plates. I mean, I've got a bunch of 1930s Maryland license plates that I'm trying to work without destroying the license plate in order to build the guitar. I might have to build my own boxes, but it's good. It's going to be playable art. But history won't be destroyed in the process when I go to do this. So it's fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
It's an amazing deal what they do with them. I mean,
absolutely.
Like you said, refurbish. What somebody would throw out, it's like me when I'm doing my lasering. I look at different things and recycle wood to laser on and look at it. You think outside the box, basically, is what you're doing. You see a can, somebody else sees that can and goes, that's trash. You go, no, that'll make a beautiful sound when I'm done with it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've actually seen a guy make a guitar out of a microwave oven. Bizarre.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's got, and the microwave still works. He actually popped popcorn while he's playing this thing on his lap. And that's the last thing I want to do. But there's some people who go through different things.
I can guarantee that guy's sterile now. He's probably sterile from the microwave.
Absolutely.
But you look at who is it? Six Steve, the guy that does the 3-string, the older guy, Six Steve or something like that.
Stairway to Heaven.
And I mean, he plays just about anything. Same way with Justin Johnson. That man can pick up any instrument and play it.
Oh yeah.
What kind of music do you like, Jim?
A lot of these guys. I mean, the imagination. I mean, you can sit there. If you got a tune in your head and you play it, you can actually develop songs out of a lot of this. I mean, you can have simple songs you can play on your own. And believe it or not, there's people who will pay good money if you cut a CD for them of cigar box guitar music. I actually have a piece of Samsonite luggage that I have as a bass drum. It's nothing like watching people play on buckets for drums. Violins made out of matchsticks. There's things like that actually happen, and it's incredible with the amount of sounds that comes out of these instruments and what these people do. I mean, I give them credit. I really do.
Yeah.
What kind of music do you like?
I'm rather eclectic. The only thing I don't like is I don't listen to is rap, but everything from jazz fusion to classical jazz, classical music, country I grew up with bluegrass. My father used to play as a backup guitarist for Happy Johnny, who was a local country western artist that they had a radio show back in the 40s. But people didn't know he was also a patient at Springboro State Hospital. So my father would drive him down to the station, and if his main guitarist wasn't able to play because he might have went out there was probably had a bad night before, at a bar somewhere.
Yeah.
I still have my father's art shop guitar that he would pick up to play and go in there and play some of the songs with. And so that's kind of like the Depression era music is what I've gotten into now with the blues, the Southern blues, Depression era music. And that gives you the whole genre where rock and roll came from and a new wave and everything else came from. And it's just amazing that how much music comes from America and how it inspired many people around the world. Even picking up something like these little cigar box guitars and be able to work with them and play them. I mean, Samantha Fish does do that in a lot of her acts. She's on YouTube, you can watch, and she's one hell of a guitarist in her own right. And but just to see it, something that you built with your own two hands, and be played by somebody who was in many of these big bands. Keith H. He used to be the bass player for Glenn Campbell and Ted Nugent.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes back when you have something in there like that. Now I went to school with the lead guitarist for Danzig. His real name is John Noble. He goes by John Christ. Have you ever heard of Mother by Danzig? He's the one who played the guitar on that. We graduated Keithville High School.
Yeah.
So I actually have him autograph one of my builds, which I'm proud to say in my office. Great guitarist, and he traveled on my builds up at the Pennsylvania, or I'm sorry, the Pittsburgh Cigar Box Guitar Festival last year, and I made with a pie plate in the middle of it for a resonator. So, but it's just great being with these people. I mean, how many friends I've actually made, in this type of genre, and sharing my passion for music and history and even ghost hunting. I call myself the ghost hunting guitar builder. So, and there's been numerous things that goes on with it.
Right.
You didn't even mention one of the greatest bands from the Baltimore, D.C. area back in the 70s. Root Boy Slim and the Sex Change Band.
Well, I thought you were going to say Crack the Sky, but that was another one that around there.
You've heard of Root Boy Slim, right?
Vaguely.
Oh
Vaguely.
my gosh. Boogie Till You Puke? Come on. That's one of the greatest party songs around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people didn't realize that. Like Gina shot.
I'd never heard of them. I went in the Air Force. There was a guy from the D.C. area, Baltimore area, and he said, "Hey, we're gonna go party." He said, "I got the perfect tape right here," and I said, "What is it?" He goes, "Not gonna tell you." And we listened to it. We were laughing our asses off. He said, "Root Boy Slim and the Sex Change Band." I said, "You got to be kidding me." That's a real band name. Yep, the guy was crazy. But it was good.
You got some
funny
character.
He said,
Man,
he play all in that area. Play between DC, Baltimore, that whole area, just all the dive bars for years until he made it. Yeah.
Probably went over there the old Poplar.
And then didn't make it. I wonder why.
It's a great genre to be in. I can tell you, from since I got into this, it gives you because I was always into I do my photography and things of that nature, kind of like I occupy my time and all, and but to incorporate some of the things that I have a whole mixture in. I mean, it was the purpose that God put me on, I guess, because I can't take credit for any of this. I mean, without Him, I can't say that I'm able to do anything. But like I said, I've been blessed about being a part of this, and just to one of the biggest joys of my life was when I went there before my church, and we used to be over in Charlestown, which is a retirement community. We used their music room, and we had a small Baptist church that met there until when COVID hit. And the joy that I had to be alongside with one of our members who played the harp, and to be there with one of my Cigar Box guitars and be able to play. It was that's probably one of the biggest honors that I had. And you know, when we played like you know, the old Rugged Cross and many of the other, you know, and inspirational music from the church, that's where I got some of my biggest joys out of it. But outside, just sitting around with some of the guys, you know, we'll smoke cigars like a cigar shop, and I'll go in there once in a while, and I'll take one of my builds in there, and we sit there. You can make something out of that. I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's not hard. It's just only a couple hours. You can take the build, but it depends on what you want it to sound like, you know, and how much work has to go into it. And you strike up a conversation with people. I know out there at the out in Western Maryland, out there they have a big arts. It's a fall apple festival out there where Camp David sits, and so that next year a bunch of us are going to try to go out there and sell some of our guitars there, because you know your wife drags you to a arts and crafts thing. And it's like, well, there's nothing here for guys. But all of a sudden, wait a minute, you can make guitars out of that. Wait a minute, I want to try that. You know, it's something different, and it's an adrenaline rush like no other. That's the best way I can describe it.
Oh yeah, and I think that there needs to be craft stuff for guys to see. Here, you got a farmer's market. It's not a farmer's market. It's a glorified craft fair.
Yeah.
And maybe every once in a while you can find honey and a spaghetti squash. Maybe a watermelon here or there. Not much. But I'd like to thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. It's getting a little late. Carl needs to eat dinner before his next show. So where can everybody find you, Jim?
Hey, well, you can check me out on Facebook under Big Jim Jones. I used to have 2 G's, but since I got the platform, I'm down to 1 G now. Big Jim Jones. I use Instagram and many other social media sites, and also on with Crossland Guitars USA. That's my page on Facebook. I will be updating that fairly soon with some new product, and I'm gonna start trying to recreate some of my media on YouTube. I do have an old YouTube channel, Big Jim Jones with 2 G's, but my new one is up there. I only have a few videos, but I'm gonna try to get some other stuff uploaded, and people can contact me through there, but mostly through Facebook, or if you can contact me through Gmail, it's prismed, PRISMD BIGGJIM @gmail.com. That's my personal email. You can contact me through there if you want to talk about paranormal, or if you want to talk about guitars, things of that nature. If you have any questions, contact me there.
Great.
Thank you so much. And you guys, you can join me every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central. Every place that you're watching this now, plus on Dark Realm TV, you can see the Paranormal Pride and whatever guests I have to entertain you with at the time. And you can join us here every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Central with me, Carl, and Ron for the Paranormal Nation Radio Not So Normal. And Carl's going to take over from here.
Yeah, and we want to thank Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment's Facebook page for letting us go there, and Things Network, which Denise and Ron and myself were all part of Things Network. And a big shout out, like Denise said, to Dark Realm TV. It's an app on Roku, and they said within less than 2 weeks we're going to be on Fire Stick too. You can catch all our shows and some other shows that are on there. There's like about 20 different shows and movies over on there. It's $4.99 a month or $49.99 a year. Get 2 months free, and Roku will give you another free month. So you're actually getting 3 free months for the $49.99. So everybody check that out. And we want to thank everybody in the chat room that joined us tonight. And we will see you next week here on Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal. Have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good.